So thank you for joining us for satsang this morning. And I thought that because it's Mother's Day also, we're all honoring our mothers and grandmothers, I will share a few thoughts on the most famous 3 words from the Vedas that speak about the mother. And these are just 3 words, but you can see how much is packed, how much is loaded in these 3 beautiful words. In fact, these 3 words form part of a commencement address that is given in the Taittiriya Upanishad by a teacher, by a guru, to his graduating class. And he summarizes on this day for them the essence of the wisdom they had learned from him, during 12 years of study. And so this is where he says, among other things, Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atiti Devo Bhava. So these 3 words, Matru Devo Bhava, he says to the students, Matru Devo Bhava. So these are the 3 words I thought I will like to reflect with you, but also invite you to reflect with me. What do these 3 words mean? What was this Acharya saying to his graduating class when he says to them, this is first time, Matru Devo Bhava, then Pitru, then Acharya, then Atithi. So let's take each word in turn. And first, Deva, Matru Devo Bhava, Deva. Now you may not agree with me, and we can discuss this, but I think very often you may have seen translations of these 3 lines that will say that your mother is God. Matru Devo Bhava is often translated, mother is God. So here the word Deva is translated as God. But I think the word Deva is one of those Sanskrit words, the meaning of which depends a lot on the context in which it is used. And sometimes Deva is indeed used for God. But sometimes when it is used for God, it's usually qualified, like Mahadeva. Say like Shiva is Mahadeva. Or in the prayer which we all learned as children, Tvameva Mata, Cha Pita, Tvameva Bandhu, Cha Sakha, Tvameva Vidya Dravinam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. The Deva of all Devas. So that's interesting. the Deva Deva, the Deva of all Devas, or Mahadeva, the greatest of all the Devas. So that gives us a clue that Deva sometimes doesn't always mean the God. So Deva in Sanskrit actually comes from the Sanskrit root, the verbal root div, which means to shine. Div means to shine. So you have like derivatives like divya. In fact, the English word divine also comes from the same root, div, which means to shine. So we have a lot of words that have this as the root. So in this series of verses, I think the word Deva means a shining being. And generally, Deva means also a being who is deserving or who ought to be honored, respected and served. A being who deserves to be honored, respected and served. A special being. So Deva here points to the specialness of the being to whom the proper attitude is one of honor, respect and generosity or service. So if I had to translate, I would translate it to mean, may you, and I'll explain, may you be one, Bhava, may you become one, for whom a mother is treated, is honored, respected, and served. May you become one for whom. Because I think that, if we translate it as mother is God, I would put it in this way: it puts a tremendous burden on the child to understand what is it really meant. Because we also speaking to the child about God, and now we say that the mother is God. It could be very confusing, and it imposes, how do I relate to this being who is now defined as God? But if you say it means, mother is Deva, means mother is a being to be honored, respected, and served. This is how we relate to Devas. We honor any being that we speak of as a Deva, immediately calls forth a certain attitude of mind and a certain response on the part of us. So, Matru is a word that is used here. So that's for Deva, that's Matru. Matru is the word that is used for mother. In fact, that's also the root that comes from which the English mother comes, from Matru. You can see the through Latin, Matru. Mother. Yeah, and then it becomes mother. The root is Sanskrit also. But Matru comes from the root, very interesting, man. Man, which means to respect. So the root of the word Matru is man, the verb is to respect. Even as Deva is div, Matru is man, to respect. So the very word itself, Matru, means a being of respect, a respected one. Matru, a respected being. So we can start there, thinking of Deva in this context, not as God, but as may you become one for whom mother is a being of honor, respect, and service. Now, let's look at the words again. Matru Devo Bhava, and I will comment shortly on the word Bhava. I think it is very important that it's an unqualified 3 words. Matru Devo Bhava. It's not, he doesn't qualify it in any way by time or space, or doesn't set any conditions in these 3 words. May you become someone for whom mother is a being of respect, honor, and service. There are no ifs and buts or onlys in this. He could have, but he didn't. It's an unqualified injunction. Unqualified injunction. No desha, kala qualifications. In other words, he doesn't say, honor your mother if she gives you what you want. Or if only when you feel like it, only when you're happy with her. No qualifications attached, and not even the qualification of perfection. That's why I say we should not translate Deva as a mother. Doesn't have to be a perfect being. No one is to deserve respect, honor, and service. So perfection is not a quality that is added here by the very fact that she is Matru. That is, it is not what we regard. It's a dharma vidhi. Dharma vidhi. So you have artha vidhi, kama vidhi. This here is what we regard as a dharma vidhi. Artha vidhi is when you do something for someone because you expect artha, wealth, something. Kama vidhi is when you act because you expect some response of pleasure from the other. Dharma vidhi is you do something because it ought to be done. It is the right thing to do. Kama and artha vidhis are actions that are done with expectations of some kind of return or reward. Dharma vidhis are those actions that we do in life which are done because they are right. Nothing. Full stop. Matru Devo Bhava. No qualification of any kind, time or place added to this. Second, I think it's good to see that he doesn't add, and he doesn't add any personal pronouns before Matru. Matru Devo Bhava. He doesn't say honor your mother. That's interesting. He doesn't qualify it. So I understand that, I read that to mean that this is an injunction, yes, of course, to honor your own mother, but I see it broadly as a dharma vidhi that says honor all mothers. It doesn't personalize it, either possessive pronoun or any kind of pronoun. It's honor all mothers. Matru Devo Bhava. Because, we all feel deeply hurt and violated in so many ways if someone treats your mother or my mother disrespectfully. It goes very deep, it hurts profoundly. And so we know, in many cultures, one of the ways of trying to hurt someone is to say something disrespectful about the person's mother, knowing that it will evoke very powerful, negative responses. Sometimes, we will be tolerant of abusive behavior towards ourselves, but not to a parent, not to a mother. It's easier for me sometimes for us to deal with somebody who's spoken abusively about ourselves, but not about the mother. So I see this dharma vidhi also as suggesting that if we wish our own mothers to be honored, in a culture, in a community, in a society, we have to create a general culture in which all mothers are honored. It has to be a culture of honoring all who are mothers. We can't, particularize it. I can't honor my own mother and disrespect other mothers. It must be a general, pervasive culture of respect for all mothers. And keep in mind, whatever I say this morning, I'm not speaking only of the biological mother. We have to expand it. He just uses the word mother here, but there are mothers who adopt children. There are mothers who, are hospitable to families that they inherit through marriage. So we have to think of all of these mothers in all of these, the diversity of roles in which they play. It is a very important point, and we can see, of course, here the Acharya says Matru Devo Bhava, and it doesn't qualify with any pronoun. But we can see in Hindu culture also in so many ways, very famous Narsi Mehta's song Vaishnava Janatote. He has a very specific line, Parasvi Jene Matre. Parasvi Jene Matre. Regard every mother as your own. To regard every mother as your own mother. To honor, respect, and serve every person who is a mother as your own. It also occurs in Tulsidas' Ramcharitmanas. So we have to do all that we can to create this culture, general culture of respect for the parent, respect for the mother. The fourth point I want to make about these three lines, and just quickly to mention it because I think it's an important point, but not to develop it in detail, is the sequence of these four lines. I don't think it's arbitrary. Matru Devo, Pitru Devo, Acharya Devo, Atiti Devo. There is something very profound in the sequence that the teacher uses. And how might we read that? and we're speaking of, normal family situations, the first and the most intimate relationship that a child has with another human being is the mother. The face that the child memorizes. Children stare, first of all, at the face of the mother. The mother's face is the one that is most profoundly imprinted on a child's mind and a child's heart. It is from the mother that the child learns what it is to be embraced, to be loved, to be cared for. Whether a child grows up, it's said, whether a child grows up to think of the world as a positive place or as a negative place depends on fundamentally on how that mother-child relationship. So, Matru Devo Bhava. If one has no value or regard, for that primary being, one is not going to have value or regard for anyone else. It is very fundamental. And only from that circle, if you think of love as a series of expanding circles, I'm not trying to underplay the role of fathers, because sometimes, as I said, fathers have to become mothers also. But I'm speaking, in a very specific case here. So then the circle grows from the intimacy and love of the mother. It goes to the father, Matru Devo Bhava. It goes to other significant persons in the community. The teachers only represents other significant persons in the community of the child. But see where the guru wants to go, Atithi. Eventually that circle must embrace everyone. The Atithi is the one you don't know. The Tithi is a stranger. Tithi is an appointment. When you make an appointment to meet someone, it means that you have you know the person, so you fix a date and time. Tithi, Atithi. It's the one you encounter without Tithi, right? And generally, the only ones that we encounter without Tithis are the strangers. So he's expanding the circles, but the fundamental, the circle on which it all stands, is the circle of the child and mother. That is the foundation, of the child's ability to love others. I think that's the profound psychological insight. The child's ability to grow into a loving being depends in a very deep way on that intimate relationship with the mother. We know what happens if a child is abandoned and has not experienced maternal love. It's very difficult. Not that the child, I'm not saying a child cannot, but the obstacles to flourishing are much more challenging in the world. That's why the child gains confidence, self-esteem, self-respect, self-value from the embrace of in motherly love. That makes all other kinds of loves possible. And the fifth point that I want to share with you is to come back to the third word, bhava. So we spoke about deva, matra, and now the final word, bhava. Again, I never really understood the meaning of bhava until I heard my own guru talk about it. Because I always read the general translations, mother is God. But he lingered a lot on this word bhava. And he was right, both grammatically and in terms of his own reading of the verse. And he said that bhava is the verb. So the guru is talking to the students. And bhava is to become. Matru Devo Bhava. So he's saying, may you become one for whom mother is a being to be respected, honored, and served. So in other words, may you continuously grow. It's an active verb, bhava, may you become. It's not a statement, mother is God. It is a reminding of the student of an obligation May you become that person. I expect all of you, he's saying, as my students, to become beings, to become persons for whom your mothers are beings to be respected, honored, and served. So think about it. When we use the word become, we use it to describe something, a process of growth, a journey, continuity. I speak of, say, becoming a teacher. It means that I'm not there yet. I want to become a teacher. I have to work towards it. I have to grow towards that. And I'm continuously, becoming a teacher is a lifelong process. Every day you learn what it means to be a teacher, how to become a better teacher. In all of our roles are like that. Bhava. We're always becoming. Whether it's becoming a parent, becoming what it means to be a son or to be a daughter, it's a process of we are not born with the skills and the disposition, to be mothers in all sense, or fathers in all sense, or teachers in all senses. We grow. And here he seems, by using the word bhava, I think he's suggesting that this is something that you have to be attentive to. You have to be mindful about what it means to be a son, or what it means to be a daughter. It's not natural, it's not automatic, it's a learned thing that comes also through mindfulness, attentiveness. That's what it means to become, bhava. One is not born with all the appropriate attitudes and actions. And if they were, there would be no reason to tell them that. Why would the teachers think it necessary to say Matru Devo Bhava if they all knew what it meant? But he's reminding them, that all of this wisdom I have taught you is not meaningful also until you become one for whom mother is honored, respected, and served. Of course, the relationship of the physical closeness of child and mother provides a context for it. But by using the word bhava, I think the teacher is saying that this is lifelong. This is a lifelong process. It's a lifelong process. It doesn't end in childhood. It continues, and you continue to grow into it. I'll give you a chance to roam here. So now, before I ask you for thoughts, there's one point. My last point on these 4 words is, if we, as the teacher says, we must become, may you become one for whom mother is honored, respected, and served. In other words, all of which is the implication of the word deva. Once we use that word deva for someone, all of this comes immediately. A very brief point is, how do we behave towards someone who we describe as a deva? What is expected of us? And we can talk about it at length, but I just want to, I think a very good clue to what it means is to think of how as Hindus we worship. What do we do in worship? Hindu puja is a very interesting ceremony of worship. As you know, the traditional puja has 16 steps, and the entire puja ceremony in the Hindu tradition draws deeply from the Hindu tradition of hospitality. There are basically 16 steps of expressing hospitality to God here, but in our behavior to a deva will be similar. In other words, how you speak to someone you regard as a deva. Towards a deva, your words are never harsh or insultive. They're like prayer. They're not prayer, but I would say they are prayerful words. They are prayerful words. So towards a deva, your words have to be mindful. And then think of, our worship ceremony. We always give life-sustaining objects. We always give life-sustaining objects in worship. we give water, we give food, we give clothing, we give all that we think are necessary for the sustenance of life itself. In addition, to love, the emotional disposition, and words of kindness and praise. So in puja there's a disposition, emotional disposition of heart, which is love. There's a mode of speaking, but it's also accompanied by very practical giving. So if we think of all of these three, as the appropriate emotional, mental, verbal, and physical, you can begin to think of what is appropriate in response to someone we regard as a deva, in this case, the mother. Meeting her needs, ensuring that her needs are met, as we will do, when we worship, is also part of proper behavior towards deva. So once we use the term, then certain expectations flow from it. And it all goes back to this, I think, fundamentally, to this Hindu value for hospitality. In the case of God, it becomes worship because God doesn't need it. God doesn't need clothing, food from us. It's also, in one case it's symbolic, but in the case of the parent, the needs are genuine, the needs are often real, and this is part of what is an obligation of a child to the parent. So these are the thoughts that I wanted to leave with you on these three words, Matru Devo Bhava. I should really perhaps be speaking this morning to the group, the smaller kids, with these thoughts. But they have another program. But if you have an opportunity to convey this to a child, these three words, Matru Devo Bhava, then you can become teachers of this great. I think it's really profound. And just in just three words, the economy of words loaded with so much profundity is very rare. We're accustomed now when people write, they write so many words, you don't even read it. But here the Guru says Matru Devo Bhava, and everything is said in that. Everything is said in those. Please.
Yeah, I was just, it's a very thought-provoking to me, and for all probably. But I'm not sure whether I really got the deeper meaning that you very well tried to bring it out.
Yes.
The one thing I felt was, of course, that bhava means that you become, as you very well said, such for whom your mother is respected. You become the representative or the ambassador.
Yes.
So that people know, just like we heard, who Drona? Arjun, Guru Drona. Who Shishya was Arjun?
Yes.
That Drona. So
Yes.
that is the representation. I think that is
Yes.
you
Yes.
are trying to.
Yeah, so he's asking, he says, yeah, I think that's fair enough that, if you are my Shishya, this is what I would like to do. Yes, exactly. As a guru. And it's really interesting also, just one response to you. These are students, who have studied with him for 12 years. And then now it's a series of sections in the Vedas like that. When the gurus come on the day of commencement to address them, they don't speak philosophical matters. They come down to relationships. How you relate to others. This is what, if you're not wise, in other words, you've not really learned the meaning of wisdom. He seems to be saying, unless you become someone who regards the mother in this way. What he chooses to say to them. Like in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, on the final day they also come to a teacher and say, tell us. And then he says, I have three things to say only. Control yourselves, give. He says, Dhamma, Dhanam, practice self-control, be generous, and daya, and be compassionate. That's it. That's all. You see, that was his commencement address. Dhamma, Dana, Daya. Da. Famous da. Yeah. I agree with you fully.
who are devatas? I mean, really, are they enlightened beings, either, or they are like shining beings, or they are historically living beings? Who are devatas?
Well, I
Who
think
were
that
devatas?
it's a good question, Arun, and
Not related to this, but
so no. But in the Gita, keep in mind, for so many layers in this answer. One is that in the Gita, Krishna uses the word deva, or daivim, prakriti, to speak about human beings. Human beings who exemplify certain kinds of virtues. He says this is who have daivim prakriti. So they are devas, those who are, committed to non-violence, the truth, and all of that. He gives a long list there. So first of all, deva can be used to describe a human being of certain exalted quality, because clearly he's using it, and even this Vedic verse, for teacher, for guru, acharya, for the atithi, for the mother, for the father. So there's the word has implications for human beings. If you accept, the Hindu cosmic world view, clearly what we see also is a certain personalization of cosmic laws. So let's say all of the laws of this finely tuned and finely ordered universe that have to do with light, Surya Devata. So it's a Surya Devata is a way of personalizing everything in the universe, all of the rules and laws of the universe that relate to light, the speed of light and the distance, and Surya Devata. But when we speak of, another implication of it is that when we understand, the nature of light, both in its function but also in its ultimate mystery, by speaking of it as Surya Deva, it invokes an attitude of reverence to it. And even as all of the laws of the universe that relate to water is Varuna Devata, or atmosphere, Vayu Devata. It also invites a certain ecological response of the sacredness of the cosmic order. The order is not desacralized. It's not desacralized. It's fine also that, that's one way to think about Surya Devata, Varuna Devata, Vayu Devata as a personalization of certain cosmic laws. It's okay also, I don't see any contradiction. In the Hindu worldview, if you want to think that, that there are beings, who have certain kinds of spheres of authority in the universe, and therefore deserving of honor and respect and worship. I don't see a problem with that as well. But of course, some would want to read it more symbolic or more metaphorical way. And my final comment on that, Arun, is that in Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says that you can worship me in the form of any devata. Understanding that the devata, the Vayu Devata or Surya Devata or Varuna Devata, is also a form of the one being. That's also appropriate. So I think we have to look at the word in its many levels, and always be attentive when we read to the particular context in which it is being used. And that's part of the problem. Just because you asked the question is, and that's I think one of the ways in which the Hindu tradition can also be misunderstood, because if every time you encounter the word Deva you translate it as God, then you do come with someone easily comes to the impression that we have many gods in the Hindu tradition. Yes, if you translate the word Deva every time it occurs as God, so you end up with a very polytheistic kind of theology. So what we have is polydevata, but we don't have polytheism. It's a very different meaning. We have polydevataism, let's say, but not polytheism.
Now, so you said 16 steps to pray.
Yes.
For puja.
Yeah. So, yeah.
What are the 16 steps? Maybe it's a next
It's always that,
topic.
it started with, it starts with, it opens with Avahana, the invitation to, like if a guest comes, you invite them, please come, Avahana. And then of course the last one is Visarjan, which is the departure of the guest. And then in between that, you have, first of all, you have asana. You must offer your guest a place to sit. You have vastram, clothing. You have, I'm not going in order, but naivedyam, food. After food, you have, even the dessert is there. So everything that you would, and then of course all of the foreign pushpam, flower,
Rupam, Deepam, Naivedyam,
all of these. 16 listed. Now, it's not complete without the proper performance of it. You just think of it when an honored guest comes to your home, how you would regard and treat this being.
Even Ramcharitmanas that you very
Yes.
I think like it's the personalization.
Yes.
Ramcharitmanas, the way I understand is the charitram of somebody. If Hey Manas, if you become that charitram,
Yes.
I will call you God, just like Ram.
Yes.
So it's the personalization with the Ram, the charitram that he describes.
Yes.
If you become that charitram,
Yes.
You will be Ram.
You embody divinity.
you will be Ram.
Yes.
It's just the collection of virtues that you become God.
Yes. Yes. Ramcharit. Yes. Yeah, Anand, go ahead.
At a purely practical level, right, I feel that I owe so much to the society. And then if I say, let me rank order who I owe the most, the mother comes at the top, then perhaps the father, then perhaps the teachers, and then all the rest. So it doesn't seem very surprising that the sequence is the way it
Yes.
is.
Yes.
And on the average, this may well be the sequence for a lot of people.
Yes.
Now, occasionally, perhaps there are differences,
Absolutely.
right? Without the mother, quite simply, I would not have been here.
Yes. Yes.
Now, so that's the past. Now, in the future, things might change. Right? There might be other ways of procreation, maybe artificial. Science progresses fast enough. There might be other ways of rearing children. So if this, if one looks at it from a purely practical standpoint, it might change the sequences.
It is quite possible, Anand, and and one of the questions that we would have to wrestle with when that time comes, and perhaps as you said it will come, is what would be the impact upon child development of those kinds of matters? How will children, what would be the impact in terms of the emotional and mental development of the child who doesn't have, the intimate relationship with a mother that we, as you quite rightly described. So, having the technique to do something does not necessarily mean that the outcome is going to be better than what we have now. That technique doesn't come with any value. We can do it, let's do it. But the consequences and the outcomes, could be very deeply problematic. Because, the human child, as we all know, is the one being that is most dependent after birth. It will not survive. If you look at other animals, they can stand immediately. After birth, they stand, and they need minimal, parental care to eventually become independent. A human child does not thrive. And so many studies have shown how brain development in the child, these are all, scientific studies, how much it depends upon those early relationships and the quality of those relationships for the child to flourish and to develop as the brain is forming. In the child. So possible, but we have to see what happens, how children will develop.
Well, Anand, you're talking about maybe procreation, how maybe there might be, it might be easy on the women right now. They have a lot of this in vitro and all that, and it's very difficult on the woman. And going through all those procedures, that might improve. But I don't think that basis, that child, doesn't matter which way the child is formed. I think that love of that mother, that emotional aspect, is so, because I see that with my inner city kids all the time. And I don't think we can ever replace that. I don't think it can be replaced. I don't care what, because science is still science. It does not, one of the ingredients of science is emotion. And right now EQ is more important than IQ, right?
Yes. And you probably have read this book by Huxley, Brave New World. Huxley, Aldous Huxley wrote Brave New World. He imagined this kind of reality that you were speaking about. And of course it is scary to see how the children, they became very, very mechanistic. It's obvious, as Gita says, that a child who unfortunately grows up feeling unloved, unwanted, unvalued. It doesn't take much to see what it does, in terms of the child's emotional and mental development. And that sense of being loved, wanted, valued comes most immediately from the relationship. And here, of course, as you said, also with the mother. The mother doesn't have to say anything in those first years. It doesn't take words, but it's all, physical, that communicates itself to the child. The child needs, the physical warmth and presence of the mother's body, to have a healthy attitude or relationship with them.
It doesn't follow that that love will not exist in such a world. In fact, isn't it the essence of Hinduism to think that everybody is to be loved?
Yes.
Not that you have to focus on your own child or own grandchild, but everybody else's child.
Yes.
And grandchild is your own.
No, of course. The ideal, even as in the sequence of verses that the teacher is moving, Atiti is, the entire creation. But at the same time, while that is an ideal, and I certainly agree with you, and I think that we are also, as human beings, we are finite beings. And certainly we should, embrace the entire creation in our love. But at the same time, it doesn't stand against the fact that there are only so many people we can know closely and know well. I can never know every child as I know my own son and daughter. So I will always have a very particular and special relationship with my own son or daughter or my own parent. I will honor all parents, but I have a very special relationship with my mother or my father because of the finiteness of my human nature. So I don't think having special particular relationships should not be seen as being opposed to the universal relationships, but we have to also acknowledge the specialness of friends, of family, of sons, of daughters with whom we have shared so much of our time on life's journey.
So basically, really, we are talking about global love, right? The final stage.
Yes.
To feel that's the highest form of humanity, right?
Yes.
For us to feel
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Then we would see global love was almost missing when things happen, right? Genocide and
Yes.
all this that's going on.
Yes.
But unless we can really,
Yes.
really identify
Yes.
that we are all brothers and sisters, and
Yes.
that we would not let that happen to our brother,
Yes.
in our family.
Yes.
But now we are letting that. But that's the highest form of spirituality, right? It takes a lot to
Yes.
start. You have to do a lot of studying, a lot of things. But it is attainable.
It is attainable, Gita, and we have to be so careful because I think that religion is one of the good religion, let me say, because sometimes you have to make the distinction. Good, that's true, good religion is one of the few places in the world, or few resources in the world, to remind us that the universe is one, and that the boundaries that we create are not the boundaries of the divine. That God has no national boundaries. God has no tribal boundaries. That God has no racial. We cannot afford. Bad religion is when we make God as small as ourselves. We reduce God. We don't try to become in the image of God, but we reduce God to our own image, and we think that we limit God to a particular nation, to the boundaries of a particular race or ethnicity or tribal group. And sometimes we see it happening where religion becomes complicit in making those boundaries, in building those walls. I mean, good religion should be wall destroying rather than wall building. And this is what you're saying. And when we don't do that, then it is very clear religion is going to be complicit in violence, because it's going to reduce the value of the other, as we see, as you mentioned, in so many places in history. It will make us very tolerant of injustice to others, because we think that we are special and the other is devalued and demeaned. So any religion, in one way or the other, that leads, we have to be very careful, that leads to the demeaning of the other, that leads to the negativizing of the other, is dangerous religion. And we have to be very, very vigilant about it. So that's a really good, important point. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Vishnu Mayeti Shabdita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Chetanat Niyati Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shanti Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shraddha Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Kanti Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Dayarupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Matru Rupena Samstitha Namastasyai 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 Namo Namah Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodar Gajanana Vande Ganapati Vighna Vinashana He Lambodar Gajanana Riddhi Siddhi Ke Data Tum Ho He Shashi Shekhar रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो हे शशि शेखर वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन हे लंबोदर गजानना वंदे गणपति जो ध्यावे वांछित फल पावे, जो ध्यावे वांछित फल पावे, जो ध्यावे वांछित फल पावे, जो ध्यावे वांछित फल पावे। अग्रदेव तुम्हें वंदना, अग्रदेव तुम्हें वंदना। वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन, वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन, हे लंबोदर प्रचारिणा। काम क्रोध मद लोभ आदि हरो, काम क्रोध मद लोभ आदि हरो, काम क्रोध मद लोभ आदि हरो, काम क्रोध मद लोभ आदि हरो। निर्विकार निर्मल मना, निर्विकार निर्मल मना। वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन, हे लंबोदर प्रचारिणा। वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन, हे लंबोदर प्रचारिणा। रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो, हे शशि शेखर नंदना। रिद्धि सिद्धि के दाता तुम हो, हे शशि शेखर नंदना। वंदे गणपति विघ्न विनाशन, हे लंबोदर प्रचारिणा। सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। ममतामयी करुणामयी, ममतामयी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। जगजीवनी संजीवनी, समस्त जीवनेश्वरी। जगजीवनी संजीवनी, समस्त जीवनेश्वरी, हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी, हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। ममतामयी करुणामयी, ममतामयी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी। प्रतिपल भुवन निधेश्वरी कृपालिनी जगतारिणी प्रतिपल भुवन हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी ममतामयी करुणामयी ममतामयी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहनी विश्वेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहिनी विश्वेश्वरी तमहारिणी शुभकारिणी मनमोहनी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी ममतामयी करुणामयी ममतामयी करुणामयी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी सर्वेश्वरी जगदीश्वरी हे मातृरूप महेश्वरी. But we will close and thank you very much for this prayer. कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यद्यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि. ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः.